here this evening, as is clear to all, to discuss the creation of the position of administrator. We will not be voting on the position tonight because we want time to consider the comments and email that we have received. We have been discussing the administrator position more than a year. We started this more than a year ago. Support for creating the position at the June 25th, 2008 work session was 4 town board members for and 1 against. To assure that we would be best informed about the relevant considerations, we followed up by creating a nonpartisan and well-informed group to study the issue and to prepare a report. We selected 3 Republicans, 3 Democrats, and 1 unaffiliated so that it would be well-balanced politically, and they were all North Castle residents, to serve as members of the Administrative Review Task Force. The members had government, administrative, planning, and financial experience. Some of the positions they held were National Security Advisor to George H.W. Bush, 2 former members of the North Castle Planning Board, a school business manager, a CPA and managing partner of a large law firm in Manhattan, a city planner, and 1 member was in finance. At the March 11, 2009 Town Board meeting, this highly qualified Administrator Review Task Force unanimously recommended that the Town Board hire an administrator as soon as possible. They also recommended that we not hire any additional staff. These recommendations were made well after the economic downturn. Since the report was issued, we have publicized information on the administrator position in electronic and hard copy newsletters, on cable and in video segments, by a letter to all residents at no expense to the town, at this meeting, and will continue the discussion at the August 12th meeting. Here are some of the reasons the task force and I support creating the administrator position. Because administrators are professionals trained in public administration, they have the expertise to deal with the complexities of town government, and most have many years of experience. Our town budget is big business and demands a full-time person. People with other jobs cannot give the supervisor position the time it demands. With an administrator in place, the supervisor position becomes part-time and allows many capable people with other jobs to consider becoming supervisor. It also allows the supervisor and the town board to focus on policy instead of the day-to-day operations of the town. Next year, it is possible that only 2 of the current members of the town board will be in office. This is exactly the time that the stability and continuity of an administrator who is not part of the election process would be particularly valuable. But most of all, the reasons for an administrator are for the efficiencies, cost savings, and improved governance that person would bring to our town, regardless of who the supervisor is. I have served on the Westchester Municipal Officials Association Executive Committee with many managers and administrators and have worked closely with several of them. I am the only one on the town board who has seen what these administrators know and contribute. The administrator's responsibilities are varied, but are primarily administrative and financial. Administratively, he or she would coordinate the work of departments, boards, and committees, be the point person for large projects, and would handle personnel issues on a daily basis. He would save considerable money by coordinating purchases of equipment and services, which is not currently done efficiently. His attendance at certain meetings and execution of purchasing contracts are items we currently pay our town attorney to do. Examples are cable franchise agreements and the garbage contract. In this case, or these cases, money spent on the attorney could be spent on the administrator instead. Financially, the administrator prepares the budget and presents his recommendation to the town board. He also writes grants and negotiates labor contracts. The money we currently spend on labor attorneys or consultants and have in the past spent on grant writers would be spent instead on the administrator. The knowledge of government regulations, settlements by other municipalities, and awareness of what is happening with workmen's compensation, insurance, PERB, MS4 requirements, and other relevant issues affecting town governance generally exceeds what is known by even the best informed supervisor. We will most likely vote on August 12th because if we do create the position, we will need to resolve the funding. We are currently working on the 2010 budget, and the administrator position would need to be budgeted for. Based on a 2008 survey of the 24 Westchester municipalities that have an administrator or a manager, the average salary is $154,000. I would estimate the cost to North Castle with benefits to be approximately $200,000. We are not planning to add an assistant or a secretary for the administrator. Since the supervisor position will be part-time, it is assumed that the administrator and supervisor will share a secretary. Funding already exists for the administrator. The administrator would now take over much of the work performed by the supervisor, town board members, attorney, labor, and other outside consultants. Most of the costs for the administrator would be covered by shifting expenses for that work from those elected officials and professionals to the administrator. While compensation now paid to elected officials and professionals would be impacted, none of the funding would come at the expense of our department heads or rank and file employees. What I have suggested here comes close to paying for the position immediately, not taking into account savings from efficiencies such as centralized purchasing. Based on my experience over the past years as a councilman and supervisor, I feel strongly, as most of you know, that the town would be better served by having an administrator. I made the suggestion with no motive other than providing North Castle with the best way to operate. This is not about whether I or any of the current candidates for supervisor can do a good job. This is about the best way to govern our town. Each year, 3 town board positions are up for election. I should say every other year. 2 for council and 1 for supervisor. In 2 years, we may be looking at another big change in the elected officials on the town board. The administrator office offers the needed stability, continuity, and expertise to help us through transitions. Let's create the position of administrator as soon as possible, as was suggested by the task force. Should we find a way to make it happen during my term of service, I would gladly give up a large portion of my salary. That's the extent of my remarks.